This time on Fifth Gear, Johnny and Jimmy touched down in Korea to get the inside story on how, in just a few years, this country went from making cars that were a bit of a joke to making Korean cars drive like their European rivals.
Fast we going?
200.
Back in the UK, the team get their hands on a car that's been relaunched after a 19-year hiatus. The Toyota Supra is back.
There's a little bit of play in the chassis for you to have a bit of fun. Bang on cue.
But is it as good as the original? I'll be driving the latest Audi R8. Now, rumour has it this could be the last outing for Audi's flagship supercar. Is it going out with a bang?
The engine is absolutely beautiful.
Jimmy will be looking at a legend of performance cars, the original Bentley blower, and finding out how its revolutionary use of supercharging dramatically changed our motoring world.
This might be the most proper motoring experience I have ever had.
And the featherweight sports car division has a new contender. In the French corner, the Alpine A110 takes on the reigning British champion, the Lotus Elise, in a track battle against the clock.
It's such a fantastic car.
Hello and welcome to South Korea.
Although that is North Korea, where at this very moment Donald Trump is meeting Kim Jong-un. An historic moment.
Historic indeed. But on to more important matters.
Because we're on a mission to find out how a country which didn't even mass produce its own car until 1975 has managed to turn itself into one of the biggest car producers in the world.
We've got exclusive access to Kia's biggest car factory and latest models. Get a look at the emerging tuning culture.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and very cool.
And we'll meet the ex-chief engineer from BMW who's been brought in to develop the driving dynamics of the new sports models. All on his own private test track. So where exactly are we going to start this trip, Johnny?
Where all new cars start their journey. A car factory.
Ooh.
Back in 1987, Kia only made 95,000 cars. But now, thanks to a quite astonishing level of scale and automation, that figure is 3 million plus. This is the enormous Hwasong factory, which covers 3.3 million square metres. And today we've been allowed an exclusive whistle-stop tour down on one of the assembly lines here to get an insight into how that scale and speed of production is achieved.
So this production line 3, 176,000 cars on this production line a year.
Alone.
Johnny, in there is 2.3 kilometres of conveyor belts.
That sounds amazing, Jimmy. Show me it.
We're starting here at the press shop, where the steel is cut and stamped. Every 5 seconds, out pops another panel for the car.
110,000 tonnes of steel is used a year.
It's absolutely amazing. These stamps are giving it 2,400 tonnes of pressure. So it's drawing it, it's trimming it, it's piercing it, and then it's flanging it, and then it kicks it out.
And the only thing the human does is at the end just eye checks it, feels
Make sure
it.
this is perfect, yeah. Right, he's thorough.
13,000 people work at the factory alongside 280 robots that perform a choreographed building and welding routine.
You would stand and watch this literally all day.
It is a robotic ballet.
Hello, mate.
I'm a little bit scared of robots.
It's amazing.
I like the fact that even the robots are made in Korea.
Really?
Yeah, the Hyundai robots.
This part of the build process is fully mechanised, as the robots build the car's entire body shell.
They'll have a left-hand one, a right-hand one, and then that roof section, and the floor pan. We're going to see those all be robotically welded together. 74 cars an hour.
An hour. You've got to keep everything moving all the time.
And before we knew it, something recognisable started to emerge.
Okay.
There's a car, there's
oh my
a car.
gosh, yeah, look. Incredible. How quick, how precise.
Look at that go to work.
This is Willy Wonka
Yes,
if he was
yeah.
to build a Kia.
This is completely automated at a level I've never seen.
Yeah, me too. And you say they're making 74 cars an hour?
Around 2,000 a day.
I mean, that's just such big numbers.
Onto assembly and more mind-boggling stats.
How many engines are they making here a year?
1.2 million, 600,000 gearboxes, 3 variants. Was it like something like 5 different types of engine?
Yeah.
Here, a year.
Yeah.
It's just
And this is one factory.
just in this plant alone.
Yeah.
They're fitting an engine to this car every 72 seconds.
And that's with struts, brakes, steering rack. It takes me longer to pop the bonnet and fumble around for the bonnet catch.
At the end of the line, quality control. The cars are checked from every angle.
Oh look, there you go.
Excuse me, Johnny, I'm just going to have just a quiet moment.
So you get to look at an undercarriage
It's clean.
of a box fresh Kia Optima done.
It's clear the Korean attention to detail is very much to the fore, with a final human eye giving the cars a visual inspection.
It's all good? Yeah, he's happy with it, look.
Even having witnessed just a snapshot of this high-tech process, it's clear why the Korean industry has grown so rapidly.
This feels like quite a progressive location. I mean,
Massively.
280 robots, everything moving on conveyor belts.
There's just the quantity of everything and the relentlessness.
Just utterly mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Finally, we were invited to drive a finished car out of the building. A real honour.
Don't hit anything, Johnny.
No, because it's brand new.
Each vehicle then has to complete a 2-kilometre test drive as yet another check of quality.
This is random.
Are we even on the right side of the road?
No, we're actually not.
Join us later for more insights into the Korean success story.
Now it's time for us to get a first look and drive of a brand new model. Oh yes, it's the Fifth Gear Team Test.
Today, the team test was the Toyota Supra. Gazoo Racing. This legendary flagship sports car badge has been missing from the Toyota lineup since 2002. Yes, the Supra is back and apparently offers the ultimate expression of driving pleasure. It has a 3-litre, 340 horsepower engine and prices start at £52,000, though we tested the slightly plusher Pro model, which costs £2,000 more. So, boys, this is the Toyota GR Supra, and the GR stands for Gazoo Racing,
Gazoo.
which is Toyota's in-house motorsport division. So it's been developed with them. What do you think?
I can't make up my mind.
I'm really into it. I'm really fascinated by it. That ducktail is fab. Look at it here.
Getting all touchy-feely, isn't it?
I'm just getting
You're
lightly
getting all
turned on.
amorous
Just
for
gonna
the
have a little
vehicle,
lie
aren't you?
down. Just.
Do you want your chaise longue?
I'd love a chaise longue right now. Just think it looks superb. I love those haunches at the back. Love those cuts on the doors.
Check this out. It's just so bizarre.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, there's an unusual thing in the boot because it hasn't got a divider that stops the boot coming into the cabin.
You see all the way through.
But just, I think that's quite dangerous.
I don't get that. I mean, that can't have been planned. That can't be right, surely. Well, if you have loose plums, they're going to make a right mess in there.
That's part of the Gazoo Racing mentality. It's called the Gazoo shelf.
There isn't one.
Yeah, there isn't one. It's super. It's you don't need it, so don't put it in. It's Gazoo spec. What is under here? That's just a battery.
battery.
It's with a BMW badge on it, and some control boxes with BMW
Why
badge on
haven't
it.
they put stickers over
Oh,
them?
just take that bit out.
Obviously, it's based on BMW underpinnings. A lot's been said about that. It's quite divisive.
It just feels like a rebranded BMW.
Apparently, they've teamed up with BMW because it's speeded up the process of development.
Do you know what? I've got really annoyed now.
Go on.
Oh no!
I've just gone annoyed. I've gone Mardy.
Why?
It's just BMW. It's BMW, 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 BMW. It doesn't look like they've put much effort into making it a Supra, so that's slightly disappointing.
I can't help thinking that Toyota might have been a bit lazy. They're a rich company. The Supra's one of their flagships. It is their flagship. They should have gone big, you know? You're getting from the outside, which is super Japanese, and you're getting inside, which seems almost a little bit conservative. This is just too sensible.
So for some reason, I ended up in the passenger seat and Johnny took me out for a little spin. Yeah. Let's go. Oh, God, it's not even manual, is it? Oh.
No, you can't buy Manuel.
In the 50 grand sports car market, the Supra needs to work on the road as a daily driver. This is made in Austria alongside the Z4.
Yeah. which again feels kind of, I'm a bit nervous about it being a bit too Germanic.
Oh, that's nice. Got some
Very linear.
pokey.
It feels very, very capable.
Yeah.
Brakes are good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I really like the pedal feel, and I really like the steering feel. But I'm trying not to think about BMWs. It's really hard. Like Plato said, once you've seen a badge under the bonnet or in a door shut or something, you go. But you know, on the one hand, you could constantly beat on about that, or you could just be happy that it exists.
Why don't we do the latter?
The way it drives at the moment, I'm quite happy to celebrate its existence because it does feel very cool.
So the plan next was to ramp it up a bit and go on the outer handling circuit. Jason came along. I thought, fair's fair. Let's do rock, paper, scissors, see who would get in the hot seats. 1, 2, 3. Oh, no.
Plato's up.
Wasn't me. Again. And things got even worse. Fake engine noise played through the speakers.
It's got a synthetised engine as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I know.
Why do manufacturers do this now?
But what is the point? Right, so up front we've got a straight 6. Back in the day, always sounded nice.
Sounds lush.
Why bother?
Yeah, the steering's accurate, but I feel a bit disconnected. So we're on the stiffest setting, aren't we?
We are, hun. Do you want to loosen it up a bit?
Well, I think it needs an even stiffer setting.
Yeah.
It feels quite soft.
Yeah. This feels, from my position, really tidy, but there's got a little bit of play in the chassis for you to have a bit of fun.
Hello.
Bang on cue. I could do with a few more grab handles when I'm in here with you. With Johnny, I just felt I could do with another gin and tonic.
I need pretty good fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just struggling now. 50 odd grand. It's not special enough for me to put my money with Toyota rather than BMW.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is it special enough to take you out of a Porsche? So, after everyone had driven it, except me, what would be the scores on the doors?
The fact it is such a BMW underneath and there's been no effort really to disguise that makes me want to mark it down, but then again, the BMW is a great car, so I'm going to give it a 7.
If it was based upon looks alone, I'd give this car a 9.5 because I'm really into it. I do wish, though, that Toyota had definitely gone their own way with the interior. So on that basis, I'm going to give it an 8.
For me, it is not as good as a Porsche Cayman, and this car has to be spectacular if it's coming into this marketplace. So I'm going to give it a disappointing and disappointed 6.5.
Which gives the Toyota GR Supra a good but not exceptional team test score of 21.5 out of 30.
Coming up, we go back to South Korea, where Johnny has been to find out if, after years of producing mass-market motors, this country could become the next car-tuning superpower.
Oh, yeah, that's pulling.
And I'll be behind the wheel of the new Audi R8, getting to grips with what could be the last hurrah for this German supercar.
It's a great bit of kit.
Welcome back to Fifth Gear. Now, what you're looking at here is both a new car, but also the last of a breed.
This is the Audi R8, and this top-of-the-range performance version will set you back £154,000. And for that money, well, it'll do 205 miles an hour, and it'll get to 60 in 3.1 seconds, which is a conservative figure, apparently.
All of that is powered by a 5.2-litre V10 normally aspirated motor that kicks out 620 horsepower.
And it's the engine that means this car, although it's just had a facelift, is already on borrowed time. But more about that sad news later. Right now, it needs to be driven.
The R8 was originally launched in 2006 and was Audi's first proper supercar. It was designed to complement the range and offer real competition to Porsche's 911.
In fact, some people thought it was actually a bit better.
The first series of R8 ran to 2015. Before the Series 2 appeared, it was more of an evolution than a revolution.
Audi decided to stick with a winning formula, so the replacement looked very similar to the original car, but in fact, it was a brand new piece of kit.
And now the R8 has been tweaked again, with some in-your-face grillage and a few mechanical upgrades. And as is the way with these things, this is now the most powerful R8 ever made. So, what are the initial impressions?
In terms of road cars like this, I'm probably the hardest person to please because I'm a big fan of the 911 Turbo. And I've not really been a fan of this version in V8 form, but this V10 really is really lovely. I mean, the engine is what makes it. It hasn't got that smash in the back that a turbo gives you, but it's got this linearity. Oh man, it is just beautiful. This car's permanent four-wheel drive. It's got a clever diff. It distributes power around the car. It will feel like a rear-wheel drive car in certain times, and when it needs a little bit of pull out of the corner with the front axle, then it will give you that.
But the days of hearing a beautiful, wailing, naturally aspirated V10 like this are likely to be numbered, as almost all other supercars have switched to smaller capacity engines with turbochargers. And that's what makes this R8 a dying breed. So I want to open it up properly. Let's head to the track and I'll explain more.
As we know, every manufacturer and customer on the planet is under such pressure to make and drive much more fuel-efficient cars. And sad for petrolheads like us, this will be the last normally aspirated Audi R8 ever, and more than likely, this will be the last normally aspirated Audi engine that will ever be made. Sad, eh? This is the performance edition, so it's got a few extras on. We got 1,350 quid's worth of dynamic steering, and that will, depending on the speed, will change how much steering angle I get for the given amount of steering. And I must say, one of the nicest things about driving this car is the steering. It's pinpoint accurate, it's nicely weighted, it just feels great in your hands.
It also has Audi's trick magnetic dampers, which adjusts the suspension on track, meaning under high-speed cornering, it stays incredibly flat.
We've also got carbon brakes. So we got fantastic stopping power with no fade. Moves around a little bit, which is no bad thing. We like that. Now doing 120, 130 mile an hour now. 140, 150, 160. It's pretty quick, this thing. And it's so easy to drive.
Thanks to emissions regulations, the future of the supercar is going to be turbochargers, hybrid systems, and more cars with fake engine sounds pumped through your speakers.
Yeah.
But that's progress, apparently.
After the factory visit earlier, I'd heard rumours about the newly emerging tuning scene in Korea, so I headed to the outskirts of Seoul to find out more. Until recently, tuning your car in Korea was virtually impossible because the government put so much red tape in the way that hardly anybody bothered. In fact, a survey that was conducted in 2014 revealed that most Koreans thought any form of car tuning was totally illegal. But then the government had a change of heart. They looked at other countries and they realised that the tuning industry was rather big business. Take the USA, for example. It generates over $34 billion of income per year. Based on those figures, unsurprisingly, the Korean government decided to make the tuning process a bit more accessible. Unlike the UK, you still need to make a separate application for each tuning job. But now you can do that online, and as long as the car conforms to the government regulations, it can often be approved within a day. And Korea's car tuning has taken off as a result. Today, I'm at one of the country's top tuners, Torcon Power Labs, to see which machines are popular when the spray guns and spanners come out. They'll typically do about 50 jobs a month that are quite minor, like little induction kits and that sort of stuff, exhausts. And they'll do 5 major, like engine transplants, full engine rebuilds, so it's busy. Business is brisk. There's a definite trend of cars that are favourable. Most of the cars that get modified here are domestic cars, so the Korean cars. Take this, for example. This is a Veloster N. So it's pretty much a brand new car, and already it's been heavily modified. This started life with a 2-litre engine developing 240 horsepower. It's now 400 horsepower. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and very cool. But the Koreans don't stop at tinkering under the bonnets. They go to town on the bodywork and the interiors too. Look at the quality, look at the execution. And you've got little influences from like Japanese, like the clip-on arches with the visible rivets, the tyre lettering, that's really fashionable at the moment. Some of the cars are running like air suspension, like that Lexus over there. That and the Mini are the only non-Korean cars here. I mean, it's mad in here. It's brilliant though. Some really good, tasteful stuff. Way more tasteful than the stuff my mates were doing when they were 20. This is real carbon body kits, real carbon bonnets. There's loads of carbon inside the car, so there's some money being spent here. Talking of money, in the UK, tuned cars can get caned when it comes to insurance. In Korea, they keep the premiums down by halving the payouts in the event of an accident. So if you add 10 grand's worth of mods, the insurance will only cough up 5. So it's a bit of a risk. You've got to really want to do it. As for parts, the Koreans import a lot from America and Japan, who have been at it for decades. However, places like Torcon are now producing their own bits and pieces and then exporting. Chief tuner Tony Kang has agreed to take me out for a ride in the modified Veloster N. I don't expect much banter here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tony's English isn't the best. So is it mostly like farming in this countryside here? Lots of farms?
My English is no good. Yeah.
It's better than my Korean, trust me. This 20 grand car has had nearly another 20 grand spent on the modifications, including an uprated turbocharger, a sports exhaust and lightweight carbon fibre panels. And once out of the quiet residential streets, Tony was able to open it up. Yeah, that's pulling. In 2014, the Korean tuning business was worth $500 million. 5 years later, it's worth almost $4 billion, and it's still climbing like a rocket. The thing about Korea that I've noticed is once a trend has been spotted or a piece of technology explored, it gets exploited really quickly. The rate of evolution is quicker than anywhere, quicker even than, I think, Japan or China. The Koreans came late to the tuning party, but have already caught up with the Western world. And now the Korean government is actively supporting the industry with grants in certain regions in the hope that high-quality, low-cost items become in demand all over the world. So who knows? The next tuning component on your car might come from these very shores.
Coming up,
Robin.
back in Blighty, Jimmy takes a look at the original supercharged luxury car, the legendary 1920s Bentley blower,
I am loving this.
and finds out how its pioneering engine made it a motoring icon. And I'll be taken to the track again to find out if the new French fancy Alpine A110 can take on the lightweight handling and fun of the Lotus Elise. Oh, I love it! Welcome back. Time for a fifth gear shootout. The recipe is very simple. We put two like-minded cars up against each other and find out which is quickest. Today, an all-new lightweight sports car from France takes on the British benchmark. This legendary Lotus Elise is essentially a 20-year-old design. Yes, it's been subtly upgraded and restyled over the years, but the platform the car is built upon has remained the same since 1996. This latest 250 Cup version is currently the fastest Elise you can buy. With 248 horsepower on tap and a price tag of about 50 grand. By comparison, the French Alpine A110 is new to our roads. Although the design takes inspiration from the famous A110 of the 1960s, this is the first model from the Renault sub-brand. Now this Premier Edition model, like the Lotus, is also about 50 grand and packs an almost identical punch with 252 HP. So will the new kid on the block prove that the performance game has moved on? Or was the Elise so brilliant from the very start, it can still beat its contemporaries? I'll start with the old hand.
You know, it's very simple, this car, but it's beautifully done. Now, Lotus have earned a reputation for building cars that handle brilliantly, and they've achieved this with one major design philosophy, and that's weight, or more to the point, lack of it. You know, light cars, they accelerate better, they stop quicker, they change direction faster, they're more nimble, they've got more grip, all the attributes you want in a little sports car. And this Elise weighs just 931 kilos, which is amazing. And to put that into context, you know, Porsche Cayman is 500 kilograms heavier. I mean, that's half a ton. Now, another added benefit of having a light car is you don't need a massively powerful engine. And behind me is a 1.8 4-cylinder supercharged engine, which kicks out a relatively modest 248 horsepower. Now, you know, hot hatches have much more power than that. But I don't know any hot hatch that will A, handle like this, and B, get to 60 in under 4 seconds. This will. Anyways, enough chit-chat. Let's get the stopwatch out. It's such a fantastic car. Oh, look at that change in direction. You know, on the track, this is just in its element. You know, it just does everything you want. You know, the steering on this just fantastic feel to it. There's a little tiny bit of understeer on entry. It's the absolute dogs, whatever you call them. Let's get a little bit here. On a circuit, it's pretty tough to beat.
The Elise crosses the line in 47.15 seconds. Time for the Alpine.
Now, the Alpine, which is part of Renault, have adopted similar thinking to Lotus because the Alpine A110 tops the scales at 1,100 kilograms. Now, whilst that is, you know, pretty light compared with the competition, compared to the Lotus, it's 170 kilograms heavier, and that's going to make it slower from 0 to 60 by half a second. Now, like the Lotus, the engine's behind me, so, you know, that should help with weight distribution, chassis balance, which should improve the handling. Yeah, there's bits about the car I like. You know, I love the look of it, I love the history of it. It's fun, but it hasn't got the dynamic feel that the Lotus has. Now, unlike the Lotus, I've got a 7-speed gearbox, which is pretty cool, actually. Changes gear pretty quickly. You know, the down changes are nice. Let's get the stopwatch out, and let's put together a fast lap. This has got hideous amounts of understeer.
At the first checkpoint, the Alpine is lagging the Elise by half a second.
Now, interesting enough, this is a turbocharged engine, whereas the one in the Lotus supercharged. And this develops more torque. We got 320 Newton meters compared to 250 in the Lotus. You know, I can get the back out a little bit. I can make it dance around.
By the second checkpoint, a shock, as the Alpine had managed to close the gap down to 0.2 of a second. With the tyres warmed up and the extra torque down the straight, I think the Alpine might just pull off a blinder. Sacre bleu! The Alpine loses, but there's only 0.4 of a second in it, as the French fancy A110 crosses the line in 47.48 seconds. So whilst the Elise might be getting on a bit, it still has what it takes on track to beat the French newcomer. Jimmy DeVille loves clever engineering. Today, he's looking at a motoring icon to find out what made it so special and changed our motoring world.
This is the Bentley Bentayga Speed, which Bentley claim is the fastest SUV in the world. With a top speed of a gobsmacking 190 miles per hour. It weighs nearly 2.5 tons, and yet it can get from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. That's nearly a second faster than a Porsche Cayman S. This car is ridiculous. Listen to that. In fact, it's fitting that Bentley holds the fastest SUV record because they have a rich history in making very big things go very fast. Bentley, you've made a symphony. I'm on my way to their factory to catch up with the iconic car which started the tradition over 90 years ago and pioneered an engineering principle which revolutionised performance engines and is still in widespread use today. This is the Bentley Blower 4.5. It's rather large, and back in the day, Bentley rival Ettore Bugatti referred to it as the world's fastest lorry. How very rude. The blower part of the name refers to this, an enormous supercharger fitted to the front which literally forces the fuel-air mix into the engine under pressure to create more power. And it's this pioneering engineering principle which has changed our motoring world and makes this car an icon. But before I explain what's going on in that metal lump, I've been offered a ride in this magnificent machine. But because it's Bentley's own, one of only 50 made and worth over £1 million, Robin, head of their heritage collection, will be doing the driving.
This was the supercar of its day, let's face it. It was revolutionary. Yeah. It was a marvellous way of getting more power out of a standard engine.
Not only is there more power, but thanks to the supercharger, the Bentley doesn't have to rely on high revs to deliver it.
So much torque, it'll pull away from 5 or 10 miles an hour. You don't need to do lots of gear changes. The secret is to get a flow with the car, not short, sharp movements, and then it becomes a joy.
While it had some initial reliability issues, one of the blower's greatest moments came at the French Grand Prix in 1930, where it managed a podium finish, coming in second place. Nudging the scales at nearly 2 tons, it holds the admirable record of being the heaviest car ever to enter a Grand Prix. So what is the magic that happens inside the supercharger that has influenced the engine design of virtually every performance car of today and transforms the way the blower drives? I dropped into the workshop of Kingsbury Racing, who just so happened to be fully restoring and rebuilding a blower. This is a very rare chance to see one fully disassembled. Now the supercharger is connected directly to the engine via the crank, and what I can do is take this away to show you how it works. Now, this is the rotor assembly, and this is what's inside that casing. It's made up of 2 of these rotors, and these are driven by this. As they rotate, they act like giant ice cream scoops, drawing in the fuel-air mix, compressing it and pushing it into the engine. This underlying principle, still used today, is called forced induction. Now this has done its job, my supercharged air-fuel mix is leaving via the outlet manifold, which is connected to this trunking pipe here. And through that, it's forced now, because we've got forced induction, into the cylinders of my engine. And that means a bigger bang. A bigger bang means an increase in performance. And in Bentley's case, it gave them a 50% increase. This engine now had 220 horsepower. Every Bentley now uses forced induction engines, and the Bentayga Speed has to thank the engineering that was pioneered by the original blower 90 years ago for the fact that it is the fastest SUV in the world. In fact, almost everything on the road, from a Fiesta to a Ferrari, uses forced induction to increase the power and efficiency of their engines. And all thanks to a homegrown British brand. The ingenuity of the Bentley blower has left quite a legacy.
I think this might be the most proper motoring experience I have ever had.
After the break, it's the final part of Jimmy and Johnny's Korean adventure as they head to a test track and meet the former BMW performance guru making Korean cars drive like their European rivals.
How fast are we going?
200.
Welcome back to the final part of our quest to find out how, in just 25 years, the South Koreans have gone from a smaller niche car manufacturer to being one of the biggest car producers in the world. So far, we've witnessed their advanced production processes and seen how the tuning scene has taken off in a rapid way. There's some money being spent here.
Now, we all know the Koreans are popular for churning out reliable family motors with long warranties, but can they really make an eye-catching sports saloon? Well, yes, actually.
Johnny, Proceed GT, what do you think?
It is really nice. Look, you've got the red accents because it's a GT, not chrome, smoked out anodized plastic.
I'm confused. Is it a coupe? Is it a hatchback? Is it an estate?
The truth is, nobody really knows.
It's a little styling bracket all of its own.
And look how Porsche Panamera
It really
this
is.
bum. Those lights, and even this, you think it's going to say Porsche, but it's a Kia.
It's clean and stylish.
It is.
For very cheap money. You get this car for under £30,000.
Yes.
Come on in, Stato. What is under there?
1.6 four-cylinder turbo, 204 HP.
So we're not talking epic power.
It's got the elements of a playful hot hatch, but it's not. It's not like.
Too leery.
No, it's not mental.
Should we get in and take it for a spin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you driving again?
Of course I am. I'm the wheelman in this relationship.
This new GT model has just been released, and this is my first chance to get behind the wheel.
Do you know what? I'm enjoying this. It's got the comfort, it's got the nimbleness. It feels quite German.
So, our first look and drive of the new Proceed GT has been pretty positive. It seems the Koreans really can now build in style and fun factor to their cars.
And some of that design and performance is thanks to this man, the head of research and development, Albert Biermann.
Biermann is a legend in the automotive industry because he's previously headed up BMW's fabled M division, and in doing so created some of the finest handling sports cars in the world.
He's now head of research at Kia and sister company Hyundai, who combined produce over 6 million vehicles every year. So this man influences a lot of the cars we drive.
Kia, obviously known for their family cars, but your sort of concentration is performance cars. What's the goals of the company?
So in Kia, we developed the GT label for the more sportier cars.
Yeah.
Have a little bit driving character, a little bit more precise, give it a little bit more fun.
Have you got any more cars in development at the moment?
Oh, of course, tons of them, but I cannot talk about this today.
Just talk about a couple, I'd be happy with just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
Just two, that's not even on. Those cameras aren't on.
No, we cannot talk about those.
But Albert could talk about the Proceed GT and was keen to demonstrate how and where it had been developed.
I can show you our playground here. It's a lot of fun, I can tell you.
Take us for a drive.
Okay, let's go.
And Albert's playground is this, the Namyang facility. It's a vast 5,000-acre site buried in the Korean countryside and employs 20,000 people.
Albert and his team take testing very seriously. So seriously that they have an astonishing 34 different test tracks at their disposal.
Not surprisingly, security is tight. However, when the boss of the place decides to show you around, it's amazing how the rules can suddenly change. And it was immediately apparent that Albert likes to properly test his cars.
How fast are we going?
200 kilometers per hour.
So Albert, taking just your standard road car, what are the challenges you face
in taking that and giving it this sporty feel?
So the steering tuning is unique, yeah? Matching with the bigger tires, with the higher grip, but also the roll control. The tuning of roll damping with shock absorber system and the roll bars. More tuning, more attention to get it to that point, right?
First up, a run on Kia's own section of motorway.
This is good for load transfer, you know, evaluate steering return.
You doing all right back there, Jimmy?
The handle has come into play, Johnny.
Yeah.
Then Albert will test the suspension on any new prototypes on a specially constructed city circuit with bumps and potholes.
Here we evaluate like aftershake, the tuning of shock absorber spring.
Hang on a minute.
But I don't think he understands you're supposed to slow down for speed bumps.
Oh, camber change, harsh.
You have a lot of tools in the toolbox to make a nice, balanced car.
At this point, Albert had to depart. However, he left us with his pass. And that allowed us to investigate a couple more facilities at Namyang. Starting with Asia's biggest wind tunnel. In these days of efficiency and low emissions, aerodynamics are all important.
It is absolutely fascinating to look at. It's amazing, it's mesmerising. Now, we're only doing just over 50 kilometres an hour wind speed today, but this fan can be ramped up to produce 200 kilometres an hour speed. No, I'm not going to stand here when they do that. I'm just not. I'm really glad I cut my hair just before doing this. The car is bolted down so that it doesn't move laterally. And you can see each wheel has its own little rolling road, but then there's a giant rolling road, like a treadmill under the car, to simulate the surface of the road passing under the car, because that will create wind turbulence as well.
While Johnny was experiencing the effects of extreme wind, I'd found a place where they test grip in the most atrocious conditions possible. And if you don't recognise the car being tested, then don't be surprised. That is a Kia K9, their version of a BMW 7 Series, not available in the UK. It's likely that with the advanced development programme here, a BMW and Mercedes rival could soon be on the cards. And that, along with the GT cars, makes it really feel like the Koreans have moved on from just reliable family wagons.
So, we going home? Is this the end of our career trip?
I feel that this is it. But I also feel that it won't be long before we have to come back here.
We've been here for 3 days and have seen the transformation of the Korean car industry firsthand.
How many engines are they making here a year?
1.2 million. Thanks to a combination of cutting-edge technology and industrialisation on a massive scale, they're making major advances in car production and development.
This is completely automated at a level I've never seen.
Yeah, me too.
And even now look to be taking on the world in car tuning with their unique creations.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and very cool.
At this rate of progress, just think where they'll be in the near future.